All right, welcome everybody. My name is Mary Margaret Busby. I'm the president of our Pram Central chapter, and we're really excited to celebrate Public Relations Ethics Month. We had a great panel discussion just a bit ago, and now we're going to get to hear more from our guest speaker, Paula Padine. Before we get started with our speaker, though, we had a few things of chapter business. For one, if anyone is interested in being a candidate for the 2021 Pram Board, we would love to have you email Liz Dinsmore. I'm actually going to put her email in the chat, so you can go directly from that, but it is ldinsmore, DENSMORE, at lecinc.com. Okay, so here is her email. So if you're interested or you know of anyone who else is, we would love to know. All right. Also, we would like to announce we have some new members. So we're happy that even despite Zoom, we're still having some people come on. So Jean Cook.
Hello, everyone. Well, I'm happy to report that we have 4 new student members from Belhaven University, and I'm assuming Bill Moak had something to do with that. I don't see their names here in the participant list, but I'll read them. We have Caitlin Head, Carmen Brushwood, Kelton Kemp, and Samantha, is it pronounced Laird or Liard?
Leard.
Leard. And Samantha Leard, which is spelled like herd, but Leard. So welcome to our new student members, and we hope to see them here virtually or in person at some time soon.
All right. Thank you, Jean.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have anyone else that has any kind of announcement you would like to make? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay. Well, in that case, we'll turn it over to Bill Moak, our VP of Programs, to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Mary Margaret. Make sure I have my speaker going here. Our speaker today is a nationally known ethics speaker and someone who loves the public relations profession and loves helping with accreditation, but she's most known for her role in ethics, in public relations ethics. And Paula Padine is joining us today from the Phoenix area. Just a few minutes ago, we had a wonderful panel discussion that Paula graciously agreed to put together for us. So we're eternally grateful to her for that. But Paula has a well-earned reputation as a public relations strategist and counselor in both government and nonprofit realms. She demonstrates a proven ability to envision and build mutually beneficial relationships between an organization and its stakeholders. So Padine became a Department of Veterans Affairs, or VA, Public Affairs Officer in '91, and credited her PRSA Learning and Leadership as her guiding light. She has earned Silver Anvil Awards and additional awards for her work in public relations. Since 1997, she has been the driving force behind the Phoenix Veterans Day Parade in its creative development and coordination, and leads a team of 2,500 people. So this is a big job that she does with excellence from all accounts. Paula's road to ethics advocate came by way of a personal and unique challenge. She was one of the first whistleblowers at the Phoenix VA healthcare system. She's going to talk to you about her experience, but it was excruciating for her. She was put through an unrelenting 2-year smear campaign with the goal to break her. And they stripped her of staff, budget, and duties. They took away her phone and told those who called that she no longer worked there. But eventually, she was persistent, and she and her legal team and a whistleblower physician formulated a strategy that paid off. During a congressional hearing in 2014, the chairman of the House Veterans Affairs Committee revealed he had the names of 40 veterans who died while waiting for care at the Phoenix VA hospital. In the ensuing firestorm, the hospital's executive leadership was fired, and the U.S. Secretary of Veterans Affairs was forced to resign. As details of the scandal continue to unfold, the nation learned that waitlist abuses like those in Phoenix span 111 VA facilities in 19 states. So this goes to show you that it's not always easy to practice public relations ethics within an organization. but she has demonstrated the power of doing that. And so we are very fortunate and honored to have Paula Padine with us today. Paula?
And thank you, Bill, so much for that lovely introduction. Yeah, it's a dubious distinction being a whistleblower, not something everybody wants to have on their resume, but unfortunately it's something that I had to do. So Mary Margaret, I would love to share the screen if you could allow that. It says it's disabled.
All right. Let's see. Let me see. I'll make you the host. 1 moment. All right.
Okay, let's try again. There we go. Now it looks like we'll have access. Then I just have to find this thing here. And here it is. And, oh, gotta do one more thing up here. More. Share computer sound. Okay, sorry, takes a moment to get everything situated. And now we're ready to rock and roll. So let's make sure we're ready to go. There we go. Okay, so as Bill said, this is a story of ethical values in the face of whistleblower reprisal. And I like to start by telling people, well, first off, what is a whistleblower? A whistleblower is someone who finds out that there is information that is secretive and people don't want it to be exposed, because usually it's information or activity that is deemed to be illegal or unethical, and it can really hurt or hinder a public or private organization. Many of us now know what whistleblowers are. We've had several that have come forward in the recent years. But when I first started this journey way back in 2009, 2010, I didn't know what a whistleblower was. When my legal team said, well, we need to file a whistleblower complaint, I go, what is that? So it's interesting to become one in not knowing what one was, even though I had to like certify and study on whistleblower reprisal laws. But I was the first full-time VA public affairs officer. I was selected and appointed to that position in 1994. And from 1994 to 2009, we had a beautiful culture of excellence. We were a top performing hospital in the country. VA has 156 hospitals nationwide. We had a culture of excellence and values that people upheld and embraced. And we were sharing and embracing those values and living up to them. In the panel presentation, we talked about finding ethical organizations, because that is critically important in doing what we need to do, our jobs correctly. It was actually what we called a system of healthcare for heroes, and that was a beautiful system that we were operating. And like the Phoenix VA Hospital, our public affairs program was the same. We were a top public relations program in VA. I had a seat at the leadership table. I was able to provide advice and counsel. I had staff, I had budget. We had a gazillion awards at the time. We had earned 3 PRSA Silver Anvils, and we had started what was called the VA Veterans Day Parade, which was a beautiful glowing event, very big. We get 45,000 attendees, 3,000 people are in the parade, and we get tons of media coverage all morning long on that event on Veterans Day, which is November 11th. We celebrated on November 11th because it was on the 11th day of the 11th month at the 11th hour in 1918 that the signing of the armistice took place, which ended World War I. And we thought that was the war that was going to end all wars. But that's the significance of Veterans Day in the hopes of honoring all those who have served. And then, unfortunately for us, our leader, it was time for him to retire, and we gave him a beautiful send-off because he was a phenomenal leader. And we had new leadership that came in, and unfortunately for us, the new leadership had such an ego that they were putting themselves in front of our nation's veterans. What happened at the time was I was seeing firsthand a hostile work environment. And Dr. Sam Foote was seeing mismanagement of funds as well as some other staff. And we, a few of us started collaborating on the information we were getting. And we said, we've got to stop this guy, because what he's doing is he's taking our beautiful hospital and he's ruining it. He's just ruining it. So we decided to band together. We reported it to the VA Office of the Inspector General, and they verified our information. So we were able to remove those leaders without any airing of public laundry, dirty public laundry, which is what you want. We were hoping that we could do this internally and then kind of turn the hospital back around and get it going. So that was our first whistleblower experience, and that was in 2009. Unfortunately for me, by this time they had bulldozed our PR program. From 2009 to 2011, they had removed my staff, they had removed my budget. I was down pretty much to one position and a volunteer. And there was no accountability for those who had mismanaged the funds and had created this bullying environment. But at the time, we felt that was okay because we just wanted to get back to rebuilding our culture. The interim director that was brought in offered to rebuild my public relations program. That was one of the things that we had agreed to after I exposed the hostile work environment and the funds mismanagement. And unfortunately, it was taking a long time for them to do this. It actually took 17 months. And then finally, he came out to my office and he said, Paula, I just want to get this thing done. What if we set up a meeting tomorrow? We go over everything. He goes, I reviewed it. I don't see any reason why we can't do this. And let's kind of get this done. So we sat down the very next day, we hashed it out, and then the very next day after that, they rescinded everything they had just handshook on and agreed to. So this gets to the value of our word, and our word is critically important. After 17 months and that ordeal, I said, I can tell that this isn't going to work, and I'm going to need to take action into my own hands. And I filed what was called an Equal Employment Opportunity Complaint with the EEOC. And I filed it on numerous issues and talked about the bullying environment, the mismanagement of funds, and how they had created an atmosphere where I was unable to really do an effective public relations job. And then I found out that a new leader was coming. So this was in December that I filed the EEO complaint in December of 2011. And about a week later, they told me, Paula, we just found out there's going to be a new director coming. So what you're going to have to decide is if you want this new director to come in with you having an EEOC hanging over her head. It was the first time in 60 years we had a female director. So I thought about it. I talked to my legal team, and they advised me against it. And it's just like public relations advice and counsel. Sometimes it's taken and sometimes it's not. Unfortunately for me, I decided not to take their advice and counsel, and I thought that I could play nicely in the sandbox with these people. But boy, was I wrong. The new director arrived in February of 2012. She brought on her number 2 in April of 2012. And unfortunately for me, the guy that she hired as her number 2 was the guy who had been stalling my restoration for the past 17 months. So I could kind of see the writing on the wall as to what we were having pretty early on in this leadership realm. But I did the most right thing. She was the first woman director at that hospital in 60 years. I got her tons of coverage in all the venues that we had available in the media. I hooked her up with the mayor, the governor, the academics at the research institutes, the Maricopa County Hospital CEO, and our veteran service organizations. I had a congressional town hall so that she could meet the liaisons and leaders with all of them. I did the most right things, even though I kind of saw that she was moving towards a direction that I didn't think was good. And then in May, my fears were verified when we started seeing staff departures. We lost the leading diabetologist in the country off our staff. We lost one of the leading oncologists in the country off our staff. And when people like that start leaving, these are brilliant individuals. You know you're in for something that's not good. And then in August of 2012, through a comedy of errors, this management team that I was still trying to work with found out that I was in touch with Dr. Sam Foote. And they decided that Sam and I were still in cahoots and trying to remove them. At the time, we were not. It was just a loyalty environment. Sam was loyal to me for what I had done, and I was loyal to Sam for what he had done in getting rid of board leadership. But they didn't know that, and they started excluding us. They started excluding me and Sam from meetings and events and activities. They started coming down on us for our leave, which is an earned benefit that we have in the federal government. And I knew, and I think Sam knew, that we had to start protecting ourselves. And when I say I began protecting myself, what I mean is that I started storing documents. I started printing them and saving them. I started sending emails home. I had secure methods of collecting information because I could kind of see the writing on the wall. And then in December of 2012, they took action against me. I did something wrong, and I'm going to tell you what it is. In November 11th, we had our VA Veterans Day Parade, and after that parade, we have a beautiful awards banquet, which is a public ceremony where we have the entries who do the best in the parade, and we recognize them with awards and certificates and other things. So I was up against several deadlines. I was trying to create a PowerPoint, write scripts, do the certificates, gather all the awards, get everything together to go to an off-site location, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And my husband, who was a VA volunteer at the time and was working with me, the VA leaders knew this, said, Paula, you seem really frustrated. Can I come in and help you with the PowerPoint? And my husband had taken all the photos at the parade as part of his volunteer duties. And I said, oh, Bill, would you? I said, if you could put the pictures in the PowerPoint, then that would be one less thing I would have to do. So what I did was he came in to work with me the next day. I logged on to a VA computer out in the lobby of the main foyer to the director's suite. I put the PowerPoint on the desktop, on the desktop of the computer. I put the DVD in with the photos that we had into the disk drive. And I said, Bill, here's the order they go in, because I had already had the outline of the shell for the PowerPoint. I said, if you can just drop the pictures in, this will be good to go. So Bill did that. I supervised him while he was doing that. And everything worked out swimmingly for the awards banquet, which really went well. And the director and the associate director were so pleased. They had nothing but kudos and compliments. But then the following few days, they said, Paula, we understand that you logged your husband onto the computer for that presentation. And I admitted it. They called me in their office and I said, yes, I did. And I said, here's why. And I told them what was happening. And I said it was due to the lack of restoration and blah, 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 blah. And they said, well, we're going to have to see about this. So within 3 days, I was told that I had a meeting in the director's suite. I walked in, the number 2 was there, and he had the chief of HR with him. And I don't know about you guys, but when you have the chief of HR in a meeting, you know it's not good. So they called me into the office and they said, you know, we understand that you logged your husband onto the computer, and we know that this is a violation. And in order to investigate this violation, we are going to do the following. We are going to remove you from your public affairs officer position for alleged misconduct. We are taking away your email. We are taking away your phone. We are going to remove you from your office. You are to go with Maria, the HR officer, after this meeting is over, gather your personal belongings, and she is going to escort you off the property. We are placing a gag order on you where you are not to talk to anyone about anything involving this investigation or the Veterans Day Parade or your public affairs officer duties. And should we find that you're in violation of this gag order, we will take further action against you for misconduct. And they did everything they said. They had HR escort me to my office. They took away my key. They reassigned me to education in the library, and they began a 30-day investigation. And at this point in time, I want to talk about one of our PRSA foundational values, which is respect for the individual. And no one is more inherently important than another. And, you know, here I was, a service-connected, disabled veteran that had held that position admirably for nearly 20 years. I had earned the medical center a gazillion awards. I had built a wonderful reputation for the hospital. I had numerous people who supported me and believed me, and yet this was how management decided to treat me. And it goes to kind of talk about our PRSA ethical values and core principles. And I want to bring this in now because I want to show through these values and our principles kind of the rest of the tale of my woe. And I want you to look for these values: advocacy, honesty, expertise, independence, loyalty, and fairness. And I want you to look for these principles: competition, conflicts of interest, free flow of information, disclosure of information, enhancing the profession. You being here today is a huge enhancement. And safeguarding confidences. All these things are important to what we do. So remember I told you that management said it was a 30-day investigation? Well, at the 30-day mark, my legal counsel sent a letter over to management, and they said, oh no, we're still investigating. 60 days, they did send another letter, and at 90 days, they sent a third letter. And at that point in time, I started beginning my battle of depression and darkness because I was disappearing from the VA footprint. When people would call over to the VA hospital, they were told to tell them that I no longer worked there. And every day I was forced to do menial work. Although it was important work for someone 7 grades below me, it was menial work to me, someone who had built a strong public relations program and had refined and honed my expertise by getting my accreditation in public relations. But every day I provided service to veterans in the library, and I tried to cope with the legal battle that I saw brewing. And that was the beginnings of my initial battle with depression. So from darkness, I went to the spotlight, but it was only for a moment, but it was a spotlight, and it was a brief but wonderful spotlight. At about the 90-day mark, the media started wondering what happened to me. Because here you had somebody that was sending out at least weekly news releases. I was posting things on social media. I was putting blogs up on the website. I was calling them. I was holding meetings, conducting activities and events. And all of a sudden, I was no longer there. So my legal team found out that Dennis Wagner was investigating, and they said, Paula, if he calls you, we're here to remind you that you are under a gag order. And as illegal as that gag order might be, what we don't want to have you do is get fired for talking to him. So you are not to talk to him, and just refer him back to us. And we, as your legal team, who do not have the gag order, will speak to him And they did. This story appeared on the front page of the Arizona Republic on March 29th, and it says, VA official in Arizona demoted after her testimony. And what I didn't know at the time was that my legal team was already starting to build the whistleblower reprisal case for me. When this story hit the paper, people began to understand what was happening to me. Now, remind you, they had no way to find out where I was because they were hiding me in all the telephone directories and on the phone and in my email. My emails came from no name. And my regular email was just going into this black hole where people were getting upset with me because I wasn't responding. And they didn't know that I didn't see those emails. But it was at this time that I began to receive support from a group of individuals, mostly employees, veteran service organizations, and congressional members in the media who would stand behind me all the way. So that was my brief moment in the spotlight. And then I had to start going on the offensive, because at that point in time, at the end of the article, we had posted that staff needed to start calling the VA and the media and others to tell them what was happening to me. Several others did pick up on this story. Congressional members did try to intervene. Some of my staunchest allies for the time were Congressman Ann Kirkpatrick and Congressman Jeff Miller. And VA leaders were beginning to think that after this story, they would have to bring me back to my job. Because mind you, it's 90 days into their 30-day investigation, and they've been able to find nothing on me. They've been scouring my emails. They've been scouring my phone calls. They've been scouring my fund control point, and they can't find anything to keep me out of my job. Me logging my husband onto the computer was an error. That was something I did wrong, but it was a policy violation. It wasn't a privacy breach. And they appealed that and tried to make it a National Security Operations Center privacy breach numerous times over. And they kept coming back and saying, nope, still doesn't equate to a level of a breach. But they were keeping me out of my job while they were trying to find something on it. So when they thought they would have to bring me back to my role, what they thought they would do next is make me miserable when I returned. And what they did was they tried to take away the VA Veterans Day Parade from the community. Now, this move did not sit well with the community. And here's a story that kind of highlights it.
Phoenix's annual Veterans Day Parade facing cancellation this year after the Phoenix VA's sudden withdrawal of its sponsorship. Now, this has left veterans outraged at the loss of the one day a year when we honor the state's 600,000 veterans. New tonight, Bram Resnick went to the VA for answers.
Mark, 200,000 people watch this parade every year, but volunteer organizers say the VA is taking away the one person who makes the parade run.
Reminds me of when I came home from Vietnam.
David Lucier remembers how veterans were shunned when he returned home from Vietnam in the 1970s. Now he sees a return to those days.
I think it's a pervasive attitude, a substantial shift in pervasive attitude towards veterans.
The latest battle for Arizona veterans, their annual parade is being taken away. Phoenix's annual Veterans Day Parade in November, the fourth largest in the country, is in danger of being canceled this year after Veterans Affairs official in Phoenix ended their sponsorship.
It's like starting from scratch. So it is highly doubtful we would be able to pull off a parade this year.
Catherine Brooks leads the volunteer group that raises money for the parade. She says the loss of VA sponsorship meant the loss of the woman who's led the parade's volunteer committee for 15 years. Former VA spokeswoman Paula Padine.
We have 12 musical groups.
It's a big loss, and we are not permitted to talk with Paula about anything.
The Phoenix VA demoted Padine last December amidst an investigation of an alleged security breach.
We'd have to bring Paula back in the loop. We can't take Paula out of the loop and have a successful parade this year.
The VA really has to sit down with the veterans community and iron this thing out.
Now, Paula Padine is not allowed to speak to the media. I just spoke to her boss, Phoenix VA Director Sharon Hellman, who indicated that Padine will not be coming back to the parade, and hundreds of VA employees who volunteered on VA time, meaning taxpayer time, will now have to work the parade on their personal time. Hellman says the VA's priority has to be health care.
Any support that we have given the parade and other community events is something that I look at every year to ensure that our taxpayer dollars are spent wisely. And so that is one of the reasons why we want to make sure this is not a competing priority for any of the staff, and that they know that health care access for veterans is number one.
Catherine Brooks urges vets and others to write or call your members of Congress, Arizona senators, or the Secretary of Veterans Affairs to find a way to make the parade happen this year. Bram Resnick.
And they did. They called and they talked to people at the congressional level, at the city level. Shortly after that story ran, there was numerous stories in other publications, and the Phoenix City Council saw the stories and they said, we can't imagine not having a Veterans Day parade on Veterans Day in Phoenix. So what my legal team did was they reached out to the city and they said, we'd like to do what's right for all concerned. We've talked to federal attorneys and we understand that Paula can go underground as a volunteer coordinator and work on the parade. So what they did was they met with my colleague, Catherine Brooks, who was in the story, and others. We collaborated and we had to rebuild the parade team. Now, mind you, VA had all the documents because it was a VA Veterans Day parade and they were not going to share them with us. So we had to rebuild everything from scratch. We obtained the sponsors that we needed. We flipped the route because it was at the VA hospital. That's where it used to start, because during the morning lives, we could say, we're here at the Phoenix VA and talk about Veterans Day from the Phoenix VA all morning long. So VA lost out a tremendous amount of reputation and media coverage by making this maneuver. And when I appeared on the morning lives that day, so many people started texting me and calling me in between the live shots. They said, Paula, we're so glad to see that you're still there and you're doing this, and thank you for doing it. The mayor even came up at one of the events and gave me a hug, and he said, thank you so much for helping us. So it was really a wonderful thing to note that the parade marched on November 11th at 11 a.m. In 2013. But I will also tell you that this was the 11-month mark of my 30-day investigation. So I went from the spotlight back to darkness and returned to my duties as a library clerk, where I was checking in books and checking them out, making copies for the veterans, faxing documents, monitoring the computers. And I had a wonderful boss who let me watch the hearings on House Veterans Affairs and Senate Veterans Affairs Committee, because during this time, I started hearing of waits and delays in patient care. And if you remember from the interview that Sharon Hellman told Bram Resnick, healthcare access has to be job one. And that's why they canceled the parade. So what I had to do was, when I was finding out this information about the illegal wait time scandal, I had to become anonymous. I was gathering information and sending it off to members of Congress anonymously. The same to the Office of the Inspector General, the same to the Joint Commission, the same to the Office of the Medical Inspector, the same to the Secretary of Veterans Affairs, although my legal team was writing those letters that they thought they could sign on my behalf, they did. And we secretly reported this information. And at the time, I said, Sam, I can tell you that they're at it. This team is not any better than the last, and we need to collaborate again. Sam was a little hesitant to do so at this time. He saw what they were doing to me. He felt what they were doing to him, but he wanted to do his own investigating, so he did. He started asking patients how long they were waiting for care when they came into the hospital, and the story they were sharing was different than the story Sharon Hellman was telling all the staff. Sharon Hellman was telling the staff that they were only waiting 30 days or 14 days for appointments for care. And we shared all of this numerous times with senior VA leaders. But unfortunately for us, it fell on deaf ears. So Sam made a very bold move, and he said, Paula, I can tell that I'm going to have to retire and expose this thing and blow it wide open because they are not listening to us. And I said, Sam, I am behind you 100%. I will get you everything you need. Contacts to media, contacts to Congress, contacts to the veteran service organizations. For what public affairs officer doesn't have those good contacts already lined up? The staff who found out where I was, remember those 11 months ago, they were sharing insider information with me. So I gave that to Sam and to others, and we again gave VA numerous opportunities internally because no one likes to air dirty laundry in public. But it fell on deaf ears. So we worked with Congress and the media, and then we had exposure. I will tell you that the media came through for us, and so did Congressman Jeff Miller. At the time, Congressman Jeff Miller was the chair of House Veterans Affairs Committee, and he was looking at waits and delays in patient care all across the country. And although CNN and the Arizona Republic had Sam on the record via editorial boards and other means, as this is what was happening in Phoenix, the media still had to have two sources of verified, reports collaborated before they could run with an investigative report. So when Congressman Jeff Miller shared in his hearing that there may have been 40 patients who may have died while waiting for care at the Phoenix VA, that was their second source, and they were able to run with this story.
Tonight at 360 exclusive, the most disturbing example yet in our ongoing investigation of U.S. military veterans dying while they wait for medical care at VA hospitals. As a result of our previous reporting, Congress launched an investigation. Now we've uncovered just how far one VA hospital went to hide its outrageously long wait times. 40 veterans died while waiting for care at this hospital. Now, that would be shocking enough. Keeping them honest, though, there is more. A doctor who's left the hospital says that managers were actually keeping two waiting lists, a sham list that made the hospital look like a model of efficiency and a secret list that showed the deadly reality. Your senior investigative correspondent, Drew Griffin.
It was a plan by top management at this veterans hospital in Phoenix, Arizona, to hide as many as 1,600 veterans, waiting many months just to get a doctor's appointment. CNN has learned at least 40 veterans left waiting for care. Many who were on that secret list are now dead. And what's worse, according to multiple sources, the management's plan included shredding the evidence to hide the fact there was a waiting list at all.
We've heard as many as 40 veterans here in Arizona, in the Phoenix area, could have died waiting for care.
That's correct. The number's actually higher.
Dr. Sam Foote just retired after spending 24 years with the VA health system here in Arizona. The veteran doctor says the hospital did have a list that showed the VA was providing timely appointments within 14 days, but that was a sham.
The only record that you have ever been there requesting care was on that secret list. And they wouldn't take you off that secret list until you had an appointment time that was less than 14 days. So it would give the appearance that they were improving greatly the waiting times, when in reality it had been 6, 9, in some cases 21 months.
In the case of a 71-year-old U.S. Navy veteran named Thomas Breen, the wait ended much sooner.
He started bleeding in his urine. So I was like, listen, we got to get you to the doctor. We got to get you to the doctor.
Teddy Barnes Breen says his Brooklyn-raised father, Thomas, so proud of his military service, would go nowhere but the VA for treatment. And on September 28th, with blood in his urine and a history of cancer, Teddy and his wife rushed him to the Phoenix VA emergency room, where he was examined and sent home to wait.
All they wrote on his chart was must have primary doctor in 1 week. Urgent. And they sent him home.
This is a copy of Mr. Barnes' VA medical chart, stating clearly on the top urgency, that he should be seen by a primary care physician or urologist within a week.
Did anybody call?
No.
You called?
Me and Pop called.
Numerous times.
Numerous times.
And you never got an appointment?
No, I got a response. Would you like to hear the response? Well, you know, we have other patients that are critical as well. It's a 7-month waiting list, and you're going to have patience. Lawyers
Sally kept calling day after day from late September through October through November. Then she no longer had a reason to call. Thomas Breen died on November 30th, 2013. The bleeding was from inoperable stage 4 bladder cancer.
They call me December 6th. He's dead already. With the
They called you and said?
I said, what is this regarding? She goes, we have a primary for him. I said, really? You're a little too late, sweetheart.
Dr. Foote says Mr. Breen's a perfect example of a veteran who needed an urgent appointment with a primary care doctor and who was instead put on the secret waiting list where he remained hidden.
And if you die waiting for your appointment, you didn't exist.
Correct. They can just remove you from that list, and there's no record that you ever came to the VA and presented for care.
Pretty convenient.
Pretty sad.
CNN has obtained emails showing top management, including Phoenix VA Director Sharon Hellman, knew about the actual wait times, knew about the off-the-books list, and defended its use to her staff, which makes this statement to CNN from Hellman all the more strange. It is disheartening to hear allegations about veterans' care being compromised, the director writes, and we are open to any collaborative discussion that assists in our goal to continually improve patient care. Sam Foote says that response is stunning.
This was all planned, and it was planned by the very highest authorities here in Phoenix.
Correct. This was a plan that involved the PINTAD, which includes the director, the associate director, the assistant director, the chief of nursing, along with the medical chief of staff, in collaboration with the chief of HAS.
Basically, you have medical directors cooking the books.
Correct.
The Phoenix VA's off-the-books waiting list has now gotten attention of the House Veterans Affairs Committee in Washington, whose chairman, Congressman Jeff Miller, has been investigating delays in care at veterans hospitals across the country. In a hearing earlier this month, he learned even the Undersecretary of Health for the VA wasn't being told the truth about the secret list.
Were you made aware of these unofficial lists in any part of your look back?
Mr. Chairman, I was not.
Congress has now ordered all records in Phoenix, secret or not, be preserved. That would include the record of a 71-year-old Navy veteran named Thomas Breen.
And it's a sad reality. You know, people often ask me, why would leaders let the patients linger and die like that? And really, there is no good ethical response, but there is something in my studies that I learned, and it's called ethical fading. And we've seen this in numerous corporations and organizations around the globe. What happens is management gets caught up when they put profits and winning ahead of their morals. Thus, they let the ethical aspects fade into the background because they're looking so intently on something else that they lose sight of what really matters most, which is our morals and our values. And that ethical fading has hurt so many. It really has hurt so many. After this story, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs did listen. Unfortunately, it was a tad bit too late for him. He had to resign. I was still being subjected to numerous humiliating investigations. At this point in time, when this story broke, it was 18 months into my 30-month my 30-day investigation. I had filed my whistleblower lawsuit. House Veterans Affairs was helping me, and the Office of Special Counsel had also stepped in. And the Office of Special Counsel is a small but mighty group that helps whistleblowers like me. And what they said is, we're going to get you some media coverage because that's the only way that they're going to come clean. And this story appeared on the front page of the Washington Post when the new Secretary of Veterans Affairs signed in. And the story headline read, "For whistleblowers, a bold move can be followed by one to the department basement." And it talks about myself and another whistleblower. and the travesty he had to face. But during this time, I finally figured out that as miserable as I was and as depressed as I was by being banished to the basement, that God had me where he needed me to be. Because had I not been there, I wouldn't have been able to work with Sam. I wouldn't have been able to get all that anonymous information, and I wouldn't have been able to really lead with PRSA's ethical values that were a part of my case. I was an advocate in serving the public interest. We had veterans dying while waiting for care. Someone needed to advocate for them. I was honest. I was telling the truth while management was not. It's very hard to have the courage to stand up to people like that are senior executive service appointed people. I had used my expertise. I helped Sam get the information he needed. I helped get him media training. I put him in touch with the people he needed. And I knew those venues because of my professional development and what I had done in my career, especially through the APR. I cannot highlight the value of the APR more. It was one of the most important things I have ever done in my career. I had independence. I had to provide advice and counsel to those who I was representing, which was VA. And I had to ensure that we had some accountability for the actions that management was taking against us. I was loyal to our veterans and to our stakeholders, but I wasn't loyal to unethical leaders. You have no duty to be loyal to people who are unethical. It just takes a lot of courage to stand up to them. And I had to deal fairly with those I was interceding with, the Office of Special Counsel, the VA, the Office of the Inspector General, the FBI. I respected all of their opinions. I supported everyone in every way that I could. And these are the ethical values we hold significant in our profession. Fortunately for me, I was able to win my whistleblower lawsuit. This is not an easy feat. I didn't know how hard it was, that many whistleblowers do not win. But I was able to win mine and obtain a settlement. As part of my settlement, the new leaders, Bob McDonald and Sloan Gibson, desired to change the environment that we were in. And as I mentioned, the Secretary of Veterans Affairs unfortunately had to tender his resignation to the President of the United States. But what we thought was only happening in Phoenix was happening nationwide. This is the saddest tale, where 111 VA facilities were flagged for wait time investigations out of 156. So for whatever reason, management thought that it was more important to get their bonuses, to put the waits and delays behind them somehow, some way. And they all had to deal with ethical fading. It tarnished VA's reputation nationwide. Healthcare for veterans continues to remain high profile in this election and others. They've had new laws passed, and there's still more developing, and VA remains in the news. But as for me, my story ends on a high note. I was able to receive a promotion to VA Central Office as a senior advisor to the VHA Chief of Staff in communications. I had my PRSA colleagues who stood behind me all the way. They decided to nominate me for PR Pro of the Year, and I gladly accepted those honors for PR Pro. And I kept my business going on the side of Paula Padina and Associates, because I knew at some point in time I needed to make it through this so I could get my VA retirement. As part of my healing, because as I mentioned, this is a very challenging thing to go through. You know, I wrote a book and I talked about what happened to me, some of the insider information that we were able to share, how we did it. And in order to see if we were on the right track with the book, I had a colleague helping me. We submitted it to a few competitions, and we took first place for our book from the Book Pipeline competition in the nonfiction contest called Veterans Day. And we are at the point where we're looking at publishers. So if any of you have any publishers, we would greatly appreciate you reaching out to help us continue this story, because it is an important one. It's important to show how we, as PR professionals, can stand and embrace our ethical values, and that we live by our code of ethics. We're advocates, we're honest, we're experts, we show independence, we're loyal, and we're fair. I can tell you the one way that I won my whistleblower case was through the truth. The truth saved me every step of the way. I didn't have to remember what I told when. It was always the truth that set me free. And that is the end of my presentation for today, and I have a few moments for questions. So Bill, I'll turn the screen back over to you, or Mary Margaret.
Okay. Mary Margaret?
Thank you, Paula. Does anybody have any questions? Anybody?
I see 7 now, 7 chats. Let's see.
I don't think we had any chat questions right now. They're asking how this can be viewed later, to go back and see this for anyone that did miss it. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you, Paula. What a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to show you that doing the right thing can be extremely difficult, but you've proven that there is a silver lining to this. I've become so inspired by hearing this.
You know, Bill, the one thing I do want to say is that, you know, I was 2 years out for retirement. People often ask, how could you stay there after they were doing that to you? Well, you know, I had already at this point in time put about 30 years in with the federal government. So I wasn't about to leave without hitting my magic mark of, you know, my retirement age, of early retirement age, which at the time would have been 56. But I was able to go on and serve honorably for 6 more years within VA, and I retired with 40 years of federal service at the age of 62 just this year.
I have a question. What happened with the parade in subsequent years? Did the VA ever take it back, or?
No, VA never took it back. We have since been able to work with the new leadership. It took like 5 sets of leaders before they were able to kind of open up some of the parking spaces on the VA grounds and have an entry in the parade. So the parade was taken over by a nonprofit that I now lead. It's called Honoring America's Veterans, and we do that and many other wonderful things here in Phoenix for our veterans. And those people that led that unethical effort did get fired. All of them got fired, and the director, Sharon Hellman, we had wanted her to get fired for negligent homicide. Unfortunately, the FBI didn't think they could build a strong case on that. And what they did do was, going back through her emails, like she had gone through my emails, they found that she was illegally accepting bribes from a contractor. So they were able to fire her and federally prosecute her. She is now a convicted felon for accepting bribes. So it all worked out. We're very fortunate. It doesn't always turn out as well. So I was blessed.
Paula, I do want to tell you that we are sending you a gift certificate to Tomaso's. I don't know if you go there.
I love Tomaso's. How nice.
It's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite places.
Thank you. Thank you.
We'll be getting that in the mail. Wanted to do
you.
something a little special for you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, and I've got to run because I got to run to another appointment that I forgot about, and it's a medical appointment, so I can't be late.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And real quick, if y'all want to get on our Pram Central Facebook page, we'll have the YouTube link where you can watch both the panel presentation from this morning as well as Paula's presentation she just gave. Those will be up sometime today. And our membership meeting is on Wednesday, October 28th. So we hope to see everyone there.
You gonna do your picture thing again?
Sure. Can we get everybody to show your faces?
Such a clever idea.
Well, you know, we miss getting those actual pictures from the meetings, so. All right. Any other takers? Turn your camera off. All right. I know you got to go, Paul, so we'll go ahead and do this. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank y'all so much. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Mary Margaret.
Thank y'all.
Thank you all.